We often are taught you have to give 100% to everything you do, but if 90% of your role doesn't allow to your natural skill set or purpose, it's hard for people to think that you are a valuable employee.
Hi, everyone. My name is Olajumoke Fatuki. Welcome to another exciting episode of the Thrive Careers podcast. Today, we are talking about a very important topic, the confidence formula, how to attract opportunities and grow your career. And to lead us in that very important conversation, we have an amazing and exceptional guest in the house, Siena Dean. Siena, welcome to the Thrive Careers podcast. Would you please introduce yourself to our audience so they can get to know you better?
Yes, I'm so excited to be here. I'm Siena Dean. I am the Senior Manager of Alumni Engagement at Management Leadership for Tomorrow. I've had a long career of helping people reach their purpose in their way to finding career success. I'm so excited for this conversation to share some insights with you all and for you all to get to know me a little bit better.
Amazing. Thank you so much. We have a question that we just like to ask our guests. And I know that you probably didn't prepare for this, but it's just an icebreaker. If your career journey were to be a movie, what
Okay.
would the title be and why?
I love this question. Now, the answer, I'm not sure I'll love. Um, and it might depend on who you ask, but if you're just looking at my career, I guess I would say the bold and the fearless
Hmm,
would be my title because looking back and I'll share some examples, I've taken a lot of bold moves that have paid off, but if I was operating in fear, it would not have worked.
that's amazing. And it's no coincidence that today's topic is all about the confidence formula because you have to be bold to be able to take those steps. Love it. Let's get straight into it. Sienna, your work centers on helping people make sense of their career stories.
Mhm.
When did you first realize this? That
Yeah.
connecting the dots in your own journey meant betting on yourself.
Yeah. So I'm a firm believer you will not reach where you need to go if you're not operating in your purpose. And only you can determine your purpose. And so once you realize it's all moving towards that end goal, the dots start to make sense. You can be in different industries, you can have different titles, but you are always gaining skills necessary so that you are aligning with your purpose.
Amazing. And I love what you said there. Only you can determine your purpose. No one is ever going to be able to do that for you. And that's really amazing. So we're just going to zoom in a little bit more on that
Of course.
subject of purpose. So, in your view, how does a sense of purpose influence our willingness to take bold career decisions, even when we sometimes know that the outcomes are not guaranteed?
So, yeah, excellent question. I'm a firm believer, when you understand your purpose, you take back your power. It is no longer about the role or the promotion, it's about taking steps closer to living the life you want to live. It allows you to craft your roles to your strengths. When you go for promotions, you know your North Star. Actually, an example of this, when I first graduated college, I realized my purpose was to transform the way we look at education and career development, which led me to build a business proposal for one of the leading charter schools across the US. And I pitched this proposal to anyone that would listen, from teachers to directors. Eventually, I had the opportunity to pitch to the person managing alumni impact for the entire organization. And I was, 22, 23 at the time. I would not have had the confidence to take such a bold step if I didn't realize there would be many bold steps needed in order to reach my overall purpose.
That's amazing. And thank you for that story of boldness.
Right.
Thank you. All right. I was just thinking along the lines of the next question that I have for you. In my journey, I have seen that a lot of people really want to make a difference in their
Mm,
careers. They don't want their career to be at the same level But there is always that confusion with alignments. They want something else and then they're doing something else. So there is that lack of alignment.
Right.
And you have successfully guided over 500 professionals through
Mm.
career alignment. What patterns do you see in those who struggle with confidence? And
Mm.
how do you begin to rewrite that narrative?
Yeah. So I find many times if an individual is lacking confidence, they're allowing their role to shape them versus them shaping their role.
Hmm.
And so once you understand that, it's rare whatever was on the job application or your job description is what your day to day will look like. Roles constantly evolve. So as that role evolves, you should be adjusting it to whatever skills you want to build. And once you do that, then it's a lot easier to walk in strength. So actually a question that I have for you, is there something that you naturally excel at?
It's really guiding people in different aspects of their life. Before I
Mm.
narrowed it down to career, it's always been about a different aspect. When people have relationship issues, I'm like their go-to person. That
Same.
being able to just guide people, advisory, and that's why I found comfort in coaching. Yeah.
I love that, and wouldn't you say this is when you feel the most confident?
I feel like confidence is a journey. When I started
Mhm.
out, I didn't feel like I had everything that I needed. I didn't feel like I have 100% confidence. But as soon as I started to show up more,
Mhm.
my confidence started to rise
Absolutely.
and to the state that I'm in currently.
Right. So, the 2 things I wanna point out there
Mhm.
is once you understand your purpose and where you naturally excel, and then it just
Exactly.
takes repetition, you can naturally operate in confidence.
Yeah.
So that's why when someone is lacking in confidence in a role, I really want them to pin to where do you naturally excel and how can you create repetition in the spaces you naturally excel so that your role becomes a space where you can show up in that.
That's absolutely amazing. And that looks like something I was learning about a week ago about understanding our zone of genius. And
Yes,
I
yes.
think that's what you just
Mhm.
talked about, that place where you naturally excel. Of
Yes.
course, you would shine in that place. We often hear the word bet on yourself. And it sounds like a mantra. But what does it practically look like on a day to day basis, especially for someone who is juggling so many personal responsibilities like
Right.
parenting, caregiving, managing your boss, managing yourself, so many things, especially as women? How do we manage all of those things?
Yeah, of course. So betting on yourself for me is the game plan towards purpose. So it is all those steps that you take that allow you to either operate in purpose or get closer to your goals. And so day to day, it means like I previously said, you're shifting and changing and adjusting your role so that you're operating in the skills that you need to develop where you're trying to go to. And, at home, it looks like having those honest conversations between either, your spouse or even your children to say, I have to show up in this light, or you have to adjust to being comfortable of me showing up in this light because I'm working towards this long-term goal. And oftentimes as parents and as significant others, we're doing it for the betterment of our loved ones. So it's a lot easier to have that conversation once they understand where you're trying to help the family get towards.
That's amazing. Again, I love stories. So
Me
bear
too.
with me. You're going to hear a lot of stories while we're on this call. So I was attending a conference the other day, and a topic like this came up. And a lady shared a perspective of how her life changed literally when she was able to explain to a 4-year-old, what her life's structure looked like in that moment. Before
Mhm.
then, she had always just carried the guilt of that mom guilt.
Yep.
Yeah. But she applied the principle of explaining everything that is going on in her life. And
Absolutely.
surprisingly, the 4-year-old somehow understood mommy's schedule.
And even better, sometimes your children will join the mission, and that is so
Exactly.
important, and it's so impactful when it happens, and that is why, like, once I understood my purpose and my mission, I became very vocal, letting the people in
Hmm.
my life know where I was moving towards.
Mm-hmm.
So even preparing for this conversation, like, even everyone My grandma knew I had
Mm.
this call.
That's amazing.
Beauty of that is you have so many people pouring into you, and so it's so much easier to navigate. Because 'cause I'm not saying this is easy, like, some of the work that I do and help others do is some of the most challenging work you'll ever do, but it has the greatest benefit, and so you need those people in your corner. So I tell even my son, I have those conversations, and he's young, so I don't know how much he understands, but, I communicate where I'm trying to go to because, 1, it allows them to give me grace, and then 2, they feel a part of that success because it is for them.
Amazing. It's
I
like
also went
shared
off on a story.
responsibility and
Right.
also shared win. I love
Mhm.
it. And I feel like it's an absolute game changer because it somehow takes the pressure, off you and allows you to shine. So,
Yes.
yeah, I love
Yeah.
it. All right. So, moving on, you work at the intersection of purpose
Mhm.
and performance. How
Yes.
do you help others trust their own value, especially when they've been in environments that didn't seem to reflect that back to them?
Yes. So, excellent question. So, I often feel that if you are in environments where you don't feel your value is being understood, it's either too much of your role isn't aligned to your purpose and you
Hmm.
haven't adjusted that yet. So, over 60% of your job doesn't pertain to your natural skill set. And often we're taught that you have to do 100%, work at 100% of 100% of the things that you're responsible for. I have the contradictory approach of I'm going to work 200% in the spaces that I naturally excel and less than 100% in the spaces that I don't. But that only works if your role pertains to a space where, 1, you excel and the organization cares about what you excel at. So you really have to make sure before you join an organization, there's that mission alignment. I can have a whole conversation on mission alignment, which I know we don't have time for. But long as that's the case, it doesn't matter the title because you'll understand what the organization cares most about. Then you can make sure you're showing up in the spaces that pertain to your skills. So they'll see your value because you'll likely be better at it than most people. And it's the things the organization cares about. So it's less likely that they'll focus on your shortcoming because you are over excelling in the most valuable places of the organization.
That's amazing. I think the key word for me right there is mission alignment, and that's
Absolutely.
powerful. I want us to quickly, add one beautiful story that helps to tie this all together and bring the message home. So, can you share with us a client story or someone in your community who has unlocked growth by finally betting on themselves? What really changed for them? What shifted?
Yeah, and so thinking about this question, I actually have 2 stories. So hopefully since you love stories,
Go
I
for
can share
it.
both. Okay, perfect. So both were clients that were working in Fortune 500 companies,
Mhm,
mid to senior, and just been in the rat race for so long that they were having trouble finding purpose and motivation.
mhm,
For the first story, after working with them and realizing what's their why, I have all my clients figure out why do they do what they do? So why are you in the role that you're in? And why do you do that role the way that you do it? And so once you have that aha moment, you can kind of shift. So for one of them, once they realize I'm in this role purely because I was chasing promotions. I was chasing that title, and whoever would give me that title is where I went. No longer about doing the work that they actually cared about, the work that motivated them, where they found that mission alignment. And so for that person, they actually had to shift companies and take a bet on themselves. And they're actually now a very successful entrepreneur because they've gained skills across industries. And once they realized they had to get back to why they were placed on this earth, they are now doing exceptionally well. For the other person, though, they took back that power, so they realized they were letting their organization guide them in all these different directions,
mhm,
but not in a purposeful way. Because oftentimes, the people defining what the projects are just trying to check the box. Someone above them said, these are the things that need to get done. So it really is on you to have that alignment. And so when you take back and you really think about why do I do the things that I do? You can shift it to make sure that you are actually weaving back in your purpose into your job. And once the person started doing that, they loved what they did. They realized they were in the right organization, that had the right mission. They were just no longer in it. And so tying yourself back to that purpose made all the difference for them.
Beautiful. And as you were speaking, I was just traveling down memory lane, and I
Mm,
remember that one of the first books that I read when I became fully conscious of myself
mm,
was the famous book by Tim LaHaye, Why
mm,
You Act the Way You Do.
hmm.
Why you act the way you do. So I feel like everything in life boils down back to when you're able to define your purpose, when you
Right.
understand your why. And that's
Yes.
why those stories you shared are very spectacular. Being able
Mhm,
to go back to the drawing board. Why am I in this role? Why am I doing this right now? And that way you're able
mhm.
to work your way back up. That's really powerful. Thank
Yeah.
you.
No, thank you. Oftentimes we end up on autopilot and we don't even realize we're there.
Mhm.
Like 5 years in autopilot. It's just reframing that.
Exactly. And you go back to the drawing board. Awesome. Awesome. I love this. All right. So I know that a lot of people, who might be listening to this right now and they feel like they've played it, safe for too
Mm,
long. What's that one small intentional step that they can begin
mhm.
to take right now to start betting on their own potentials?
Yeah, so unfortunately, it's not small. But
Hmm.
if you've been feeling stagnant, feeling like you're taking small steps, it's probably because you are no longer aligned with purpose. And that could be for two reasons. You don't know your purpose. There
Hmm.
are countless people that I speak to that don't understand or haven't thought about why they do what they do. I have trouble. I really empathize with them because I had the fortune of realizing why I did what I did at a very young age.
Early? Okay.
Yeah, and so, it really breaks my heart when I hear those stories. So if you're there, really think about, oftentimes I have a lot of my clients, they go back to childhood and say, when it was no long when I didn't have to think about the rat race, I didn't have to think about making money. I simply enjoyed this. And once they understand that, then they can figure out how to start connecting the dots to operate in purpose. So I would say for one group, it is to determine your purpose. If you're having trouble with that, at the end, I'll share where we can connect. But go through the exercise, do the work because it really will transform your life. And if you do understand your purpose, it's about betting on yourself. It's that game plan. What is that one step that you can take? So, we talked about, and actually where I find the most inspiration to take bold moves is share your purpose. If you
Hmm.
know it, share it. Share it with your community, share it with your friends, share it with anyone that you know that will pour into you, and then they will help you start to realize where you can start diving more deeply into that. So those
That's
would be my
powerful.
so often we try to do this life alone. We are not
Hmm.
meant to do it that way at all. And
Hmm.
so I've grown so much and gotten so much further by just sharing with people where I'm trying to go to. There's resources that you don't know, there's books. I learned another book that I need to add to my list of how do I operate and help others operate in their purpose and their why. So, share your story. Do not be afraid of that.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And thank you for sharing yours with us on this episode today. So, is there anything that you feel like my questions didn't quite cover that you have in
Mm.
mind that you'd like to share with my audience in line with everything we've been talking about today?
Thank you. This has been excellent conversation. Your questions have been immensely thorough. So I appreciate you doing the due diligence. Prior to the call. But yeah, I would honestly say is what I'm asking and what I've been sharing with you all, again, is not easy and it's
Mhm.
actually quite contradictory to how we operate as a society now, right? So it's often just have your heads down, try to get as far as you can, and hope to retire. But we spend way too much time at work to live in that, to operate in that mindset. You will have to do a lot of the reprogramming necessary to operate in purpose because oftentimes you're going, so many of my clients like purpose is nice, but this is what pays me. And purpose is really playing the long game to get to where you can get to. So, it's a lot of the mental game is just as important as the day-to-day action.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. So, as we round up again, finally, this time we are rounding off. What is one secret confidence booster that works
Ooh.
for you all the time that you'd like to share with our audience?
All the time. So I would say this confidence booster is not of my own. I'm a woman of faith, and I believe my purpose is given to me from the Almighty God. And so I operate in the confidence He has bestowed in me, right? And because often He takes the ill prepared. So once you realize, like, I don't know what I'm doing, all I can do is say a prayer and hope for the best and realize that, I will constantly be equipped by the one that I serve. There's no room I can't walk into because I
Hmm.
prepared for me. That's how I do it.
That's amazing. I love this. Love, 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 love that. And there's so much we can unpack there, but
Yeah.
we just leave it at this for this episode. Thank you so much, Sienna, for sharing your
Thank
time with us on
you.
this episode. I'm
This is
sure
great.
that a lot of people in our community would like to reach out to you, engage with your work. And I would like to give you that time to share with us. How can people find you and engage with you after now?
Yeah, so I would be happy to connect. I'm actually in the process of building a formal website, but until then, please connect with me on LinkedIn. It's my name, Siena.Dean at, LinkedIn. And that's where I'll be sharing all my updates and my speaking engagements, as well as once I have a formal website, I'll share that information there as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much once
Thank
again for
you.
joining us on the call. So excited to have you. That brings us to the end of this amazing episode. And until we come your way again next time, keep thriving. Thank you so much, Sienna. Have a wonderful time.
Thank you. This is truly.
And that's it for today's episode of Thrive Careers Podcast. I am Olajumoke Fataki, reminding you that no matter where you are in your career, you have the power to rewrite your story. If you've enjoyed today's insights, do not forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with someone who's ready to thrive. If you have questions or topics you'd like for me to cover, let's connect. I would love to hear from you. Remember, clarity creates confidence, and confidence leads to success. And until I come your way again next time, stay inspired and keep thriving.